US edition.
In sunny Los Angeles, we meet America's top Koreans. James Yu, founder of Koream, a window into Korean life in the U.S. C.S. Lee's inside scoop on Dexter, revealed for the first time on Arirang.
Here in Washington, D.C.
Then we go to Washington to speak of freedom. A modern hero's take on human rights today. Dana Tysoon Burgess, an Asian American dancer, speaks to the world with his body.
In the city of cities, New York, New York.
Korean food wins over New York's trendiest diners. Be captivated by Hooni Kim's philosophy in the kitchen. Get ready for the Interview's must-see United States edition.
The Interview presents its special U.S. edition. Last week in Los Angeles, we met Korean actor C.S. Lee, a cast member of the hit drama Dexter. He plays Vince Masuka, a forensic analyst who works alongside protagonist Dexter. Thanks to the popularity of Dexter, he has become one of the most in-demand Asian American actors. Based on the novel Darkly Dreaming Dexter, the drama focuses on Dexter Morgan, a blood spatter expert in Miami, who moonlights as a killer of justice, hunting killers who have escaped the law. Dexter continues his pursuit of vigilante justice in Season 7. Oh my gosh, this is the bullpen! The Interview checked out the set of Dexter's bullpen and looked around the characters' desks and labs. And of course, the highlight was exploring Vince Masuka's lab and looking through his personal microscope. Analyzing. Well, you know, it's amazing just the detail, and you know, it's not really like clean.
Well, you know, that's the lab, and you know, the prop guys on our show do a good job of, you know, authenticating, you know, what a lab might look like. Here,
the famous painted fingernails.
Ice Truck Killer hand from Season 1.
Do you remember this hand from Season 1? This was the work of the Ice Truck Killer who drains his victims before chopping them into pieces.
So this is going to be really interesting. This is...
Is this the knife set?
Dexter's knives.
I also got to take a look at the famous knives that Dexter uses to take out the trash.
A deeply mutated version of yourself running loose.
Whoa!
One of his sets.
Wow.
Well, these are all dolls, so...
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Oh. So many different kinds of props and tools.
Yeah.
You'd never know that this was not real.
That's probably for, like, cutting bone.
Yeah.
You know?
This is pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah.
CS, thank you so much for having us in your home for this interview.
Thanks for coming by. End of it, the basketball pants would snap out.
Oh no!
And we'd throw them out and we'd be standing there in our underwear.
And the crowd's like,
The crowd would be just going crazy.
That's why there are 100 people there. Were they all women?
No.
No.
There were a lot of guys there. They're all big guys. I think especially for actors, you really, I mean, it doesn't really matter how much training you have. It's really, as long as you have the appropriate training that you need to do the job. So I always feel like I need to prepare and be over-prepared. And
You'll be looking in my direction.
CS is Vince Masuka. He is an actor's actor. He's a very generous actor. He's very encouraging and engaged in what all of us are doing. CS has a really great energy, and as outrageous as his character is, he is as down-to-earth, genuine, and kind, you know.
하나, 둘, 셋. What do I think are Charlie's strengths? His intelligence, his versatility, and his good humor. Sometimes an actor will play a part, and once that actor plays that part, it's difficult to imagine anyone else playing the part. People aren't able to say, well, they should have cast this actor, or they could have used that actor, or that actor would have been a great Masuka. No, nobody comes to mind, because CS owns it. It's his part.
kind of like he had fire in his pants. You know, every time he spoke about women and ladies, he got his eyes would light up. So I thought that.
I remember that look that you just did.
Your victim was smothered. That's not opinion. That's science. And science is one cold-hearted with a 14-inch strap-on.
What are some of the most crazy lines you've ever?
Science is a cold-hearted with a 14-inch strap-on. I mean, and you know, originally the line was science was a cold-hearted with a strap-on. But I kept saying it, it didn't sound right. So finally I was like, you know what it's missing? It's missing specificity. So I said, science is a cold-hearted with a 14-inch strap-on. That made the little cherry on top.
Yes. We're back at the Sunset Gower Studios in Hollywood. Today we'll hear behind-the-scenes stories from a writer on the Dexter team. We can't wait to hear these exclusive stories. Knock, knock.
Hi.
Let's find out how producer and writer Tim Schlattman feels about Vince Masuka. As you know, I'm here to interview C.S. Lee, and I know you've worked with him for the past 7 seasons. What's your take on him as Vince Masuka?
I mean, you know, he was, from what I understand, he was only hired as a local hire when they were shooting the pilot in Miami. And one of the things that stood out when I watched the pilot was, who is that guy? And what a unique point of view that a character like Masuka has to bring into this, you know, this bigger mix. You know, because he was someone that was really piquing everyone's interest, they decided to, you know, bring him on board for the first season, and then after the first season, he became, you know, a regular cast member.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I love about Vince Masuka is that he says these almost one-liners that you're just like, what the?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you give us an example of something that you wrote that he maybe added or changed around just a little bit and became like...
Yeah, you know, actually it was one of the first episodes I wrote. It was so it was season 1, and it was called Return to Sender.
The core of Dexter's season 1 was the case of the ice truck killer, who shockingly turned out to be Dexter's blood brother. He pulls one of Dexter's victims out of the water to reveal her to the world.
The crime scene. My crime scene.
For the first time, Dexter heads to the scene of his own crime. He can't hide his nervousness.
Nice place setting, huh?
Dexter is very tense, and
Very
Masuka
nervous.
actually, you know, picks up on that, and he looks over his shoulder and he tells Dexter, "Hey, can you back off a little? You're throwing off my chi." And Dexter looks at him and goes, "But you're not Chinese." And the line after that was, "I'm not," and yet he found a way every time he delivered that line, "I'm not," to do it a little differently. Like, it truly is a revelation to him that he's not Chinese, or he's playing the irony of, you know, being Japanese, but, you know, playing Chinese, you know, just for that moment.
Yes.
Yo, what's up with you today? You're throwing off my chi.
You're not Chinese.
I'm not?
You know, I just love how CS finds a way to make it different each take. And giving the editors choices, which is all about, you know, in the edit room, and, you know, when you're assembling a show, if you have as many choices as possible, you're going to get the, you know, the best possible edit and the best episode, you know, as opposed to just, you know, having it one way every take. You have no choice at that point.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Tim, thank you so much for your time. You've been so wonderful in talking to us. I do have one last question.
Sure.
What would be your impression of Vince if it were played by someone other than C.S. Lee?
Wow, that's
how different
you
do
know,
you think that would be?
It would be completely different. As a writer, you know, you take these characters home with you. They're always kind of in the back of your head, even when you're not on script. So once they kind of live up here for a while, they kind of stay. And I honestly, I can't imagine, you know, anyone else that would have that just kind of unique point of view that CS brings to the character. And I can't imagine anyone else doing that laugh.
Yeah. It was such a pleasure meeting you, Tim.
It was nice meeting you as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, enjoy your stay.
Okay, great.
All right.
I'm off to my next interview.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you. Knock, knock.
Hey.
Scott Reynolds is another producer and writer for Dexter. as you know, we're filming C.S. Lee, and he says some of the craziest stuff as Vince Masuka. So are you the one behind some of the crazy things?
No, all of us are. It's like, he's so fun to write for because, you know, what's great about it is that Dexter's like a pretty dark show. Yes. You know, you got this guy, he's killing people, and so even though Dexter has like a slight sense of humor about him, it's great to have Masuka, who walks into a crime scene where there's body parts and blood and spatter everywhere, and normally when you see something like that, you'd be sort of want to pull back away from it.
Yeah, it's not an easy job.
No, but CS, because of who he is and his filthy mind, offers a lot of lightness to a lot of the scenes, you know, and he's spot on every time. Yeah. He's so good, and he's funny, and I think not quite as filthy as Masuka, but maybe close.
Close?
Maybe close.
So are you drawing any inspiration for Vince Masuka from CS too?
Yeah, he oftentimes he'll improv things, and we'll watch him days. We'll be like, hey, wow. There's this big thing called Comic-Con that happens here.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and there was a moment where, so they had this panel, so you got like Michael C. Hall and everybody up there, but everybody at that, there was 5,000 people in this room here for Dexter, and then they're screaming and yelling, and they all were like chanting for Masuka. They like loved him, and then and then this guy stands up because they have these questions, and most of the questions are like bizarro world, but this one guy steps up and says, "Hey Masuka or CS, can you do the laugh?" And he just stands up. He's just so great in front of people. He stands up and says everybody's like, all right, I'm going to teach you guys all how to do the Masuka laugh. And he goes, that dirty thing that makes you, you know, feel a little uncomfortable. You hope your mom's not around when he does that.
You do it a little too well.
Well, he taught us all. He like taught this room of 5,000 people to do the Masuka laugh. And hearing 5,000 people go, do that, I didn't really do it as good as he does, was amazing. And then you know, we all sort of sit back and realize how Masuka's sort of affecting culture. I mean, CS is affecting culture in a way, you know? And he's not just playing the, I don't know, in TV, there's like certain tropes. He's not just like the smart Asian guy, you know? He's deeper and smarter than that, and more nuanced, which I think is great, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually first didn't want to watch the show.
A lot of people say that.
Because I didn't want to watch a serial killer, but then watching it on season 4, I became hooked, and I had to watch every single season from the beginning, all in like 3 days.
Yeah, people like binge on Dexter.
Yes.
Yeah. Once you get past the thought that what this guy does, you know. But that's why Masuka's so important.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, he levens things up.
Thank you so
Great
much
to
for your
meet you.
time. I really appreciate it, and we'll look forward to some awesome stuff from you.
Yeah. Season 7. Here we go.
Thank
all
you.
Right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
What do you do to get into that mode where you are playing a certain character, and in this case, Vince? Like, do you sit in your trailer and you think like perverted thoughts? Do you look at some weird magazines to kind of get in that role, or what?
Someone told you my secret?
Yeah, we scoured your trailer and found all kinds of stuff. Yeah,
Playboys and Hustlers. You know, it's really about, like I said, it's really about playing the character, and you know, it's hard to describe, you know, my process to you in a span of minutes. You know, when it took me years to hone in and learn, but you know, but essentially it's really just about finding how the character thinks and finding what he likes, what he dislikes. And if you can find for yourself, sometimes I'll just make a list. I'll just say, okay, he likes this, he likes this, he likes that, he likes this, he likes that. He doesn't like this, he doesn't like that, he doesn't. And if you do that, like, if you have a huge list,
kind of list,
all of a sudden all the different, you know, likes and dislikes become a character.
Is there any discussion with the director or the writers about how they want for a character to be portrayed too?
Generally there isn't.
No.
No, I mean, generally, you know, I think that's, they expect you to have done that type of work, and you know, by the time they've cast you.
Yes.
You know, I think that type of work is kind of, it's done, it's been done, and you know, it's your job as an actor to bring in what's supposed to happen, which is act, and they film, and it's done. You know, there's no time or room for discussions like that. But there have been times, certainly, on specific things, and there have been times when I butted heads with writers, and then I'd be like, "No, man, that's not the way I would think, or that's not the way Vince would, you know, say that line, or you know, I'm going to change it because, you know, I think it's better this way because that's the way Vince would say it, or you know." And there's been times like that, and it's all very specific, you know, depending on what scene we're working on. But and those moments arrive for everyone. Everyone has those moments. I mean, Dexter has a lot of those moments. I think you know, he changes a lot of his lines too, because sometimes it doesn't make sense. You know, you really don't know until you're on the set, and the frame's up, the cameras are up, and everything's rolling, and you get there and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's not going to make sense.
Like, it doesn't feel natural, so you'll...
Yeah.
Would you just change it on the spot, or do you say, hey, stop, and I will change this?
Well, I mean, sometimes I change it on the spot. Sometimes I'll change it, and the director will be like, okay, cut, why did you change that? And then, then I'll have a discussion with the director and tell him why, and he'll be like, okay. And then, you know, and then we move on, you know. Well, probably one of the best times I remember was getting married to my wife, Laura, and having my parents at the wedding and seeing the relief on their faces that I finally got married. I think it was a big, huge hurdle that according to my mom, that I got over. She never thought I would get married. You know, I mean, I married Laura when I was 37, I think. So pretty late in life. And there was one moment when after the wedding ceremony, we went to each other's prospective parents, and we did a Korean insa, a bow. And when we went to my parents, I shook hands with my dad, and that was fine. And then Laura and I switched positions, and my mom and I hugged, and I just lost it. I just lost it. I couldn't let go of her, because I was just crying, you know. I think it's just because I was raised by my mom, and you know, we have a very close relationship, and she's done a lot for me. She's sacrificed a lot for me here in America, and she still does.
You, as a Korean American, have really done so much as an actor. You've done film, you've done directing, and you also went to the prestigious Yale School of Drama.
Yeah.
I'd love to learn a little bit more about your journey as an actor.
Well, you know, I pretty much started doing theater in high school, just on a whim. You know, I was playing football, and for some reason, some of the football players were involved in theater as well. So I found that to be kind of rather odd, because, you know, here are these, you know, back then it was my upperclassmen who were these big hulking guys, and then I would see them do a play and act very soft and whatnot, and I found that to be very peculiar. So at the time I was actually watching a lot of films, because I was starting to, I think, I wanted to become a film director.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so when I first started this whole acting thing, I really started it just because I wanted to understand what acting was about, because I wanted to direct films, and I was watching just a boatload of films, just whatever I could get my hands on.
So it's more like a hands-on approach. You wanted to know all the different sides of what a film director would have to know. And
yeah,
so that's
I mean,
why you wanted to be
I mean, just, you know, just from studying film and directing, and I just wanted to know what that was about, and I just happened to take a class in high school, and I was, you know, kind of like, oh, this is kind of fun, you know, and this is not too hard. So I started, you know, doing plays in high school, and and then I went on, you know, to do like state championship type things, and like I was like getting, you know, I was like winning, you know, I was winning all these awards, and I was like, wow. So
like, what's one of the awards that you won as a
I don't know, it was like, you know, one of those Shakespeare conferences, and I did a scene I think from Midsummer Night's Dream, and I think my partner and I won like the best Shakespeare scene.
That's fantastic.
You know, or whatever. Yeah, so it became a lot of fun, and I ended up going to applying to college, and one of the colleges I applied for was NYU Film School.
Yes.
And so I got in. I got into NYU Film School. I was like, great.
Oh yeah.
But then I also auditioned for a smaller college in Seattle, which is an arts college, Cornish College of the Arts. Yes. Yeah. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah. Didn't you get a full ride there?
I did. Yeah. So I ended up, you know, they offered me a full ride there. Meanwhile, NYU said okay to the film program, but they wanted, you know, there was hardly any money given out, so you know, it was a no-brainer. I mean, I had to take the full ride because, you know, NYU is not cheap. You know, I'm sure it's even more expensive now. So I ended up taking the full ride, you know, in the acting route, and I haven't, you know, the train hasn't stopped.
There are also people who not only do commercials, but film and TV, but you've really pursued the theater pretty seriously. Did that have a lot to do with your deciding to go to Yale?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I mean, I just thought that, you know, after graduating college, I thought I had just touched the tip of the iceberg in terms of acting and theater. So I think the next logical step was to go to grad school. And so I applied, you know, to grad schools, and, you know, I was fortunate enough to get into Yale.
Good for you. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. I mean, I was over the moon. I mean, I was, you know, that was like one of my #1 picks, you know, that and NYU. But, you know, in hindsight, I think the best thing about being able to go to Yale was having the teachers there. The teachers are the ones that make up a school. And, you know, when I went to Yale, there were some wonderful teachers, and they, you know, have taught me like what I know and what I use even today in terms of acting and the technique and whatnot. And it definitely gives me you know, a box of tools that I can draw from anytime I'm stuck or, you know, or whatever. So I think it's important to have that as an actor.
I'd love for you to comment on the Carol Dye Award that you won in 1998 at Yale.
You know, it was, I didn't even know I won it until, I mean, literally it was you know, at the end of graduation, I think the faculty picks a handful of awards that go out. So when my name was called, I was kind of staring off into space, and then everyone kept clapping, and I was like looking around, and they were all looking at me. I was like, oh, well, they said my name. I was like, what? So I mean, I was like, okay, cool. And I mean, it surprised me that I won, but I mean, you know, I feel like I had done some good work at Yale. I'd certainly done some bad work at Yale, but I think everyone needs to have that experience. So, that made me proud, and I think what made it even better was that my parents were, you know, with me and sitting close to me. So when they saw me go up there and get that award, I think that was probably better than anything, than the award itself.
So being recognized by the faculty of Yale, how did that make you feel?
At my 3rd year of Yale, I had gotten bitten on my butt on the beach in Connecticut by a tick. So I had this red spot about this big on my butt, and I thought it was like a spider bite or something, right? Yeah. And it just kept hurting and hurting, and after about a week, I finally went into the hospital, and the doctor was like, "You got bit by a tick." Oh. And I was diagnosed with a lesser form of Lyme disease, which is called ehrlichiosis, I believe. And that's just treated with antibiotics, and it pretty much goes away. Okay. But due to that, it made my 3rd year really difficult, because what happens when you get ehrlichiosis is that it wears on your immune system, and it just makes you tired. Oh no. Even though that's the only symptom, I mean, it just kind of makes you tired and lethargic. So I thought, here I am trying to make these 8 a.m., 9 a.m. classes on a Friday at the end of the week. and I'm barely getting out of bed. I can't even function, you know. So
oh no.
I'd missed some classes, and because of that, I almost didn't graduate. Because I had this one class, this singing class on a Friday morning. I think it was at 8:30 or 9, and I had missed almost half the classes. Yikes. And I thought it was just because I was tired and because I was rehearsing late, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then I realized it was because of the illness. Certainly didn't help.
Urliculitis?
Urliculosis.
Wow.
Urliculitis sounds better.
I think Lyme's disease is much easier to pronounce.
So what happened was that right before graduation, I got called into the office with all the faculty, and they basically brought up that point. They basically said, you've missed, let's say, 6 out of the 15 classes, what's going on? And I told them, I told them my story, and no one believed me. None of the faculty, they thought I was just
acting.
Bullshitting. They thought I was just trying to get, trying to basically lie my way through graduation. And I had to tell them, I was like, I can go get the doctor's report. They're like, yeah. No, everyone was like, I think at the end of the year, they were all tired as well. So they kind of wanted to okay, let's move it along,
Yeah.
But they were like, yeah, we believe you, okay. Just make sure you don't miss any more classes and you'll graduate. That type of deal. So I almost didn't graduate because of a tick that bit me on the butt.
Wow. Did they end up believing you?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I hope they believe me now because that's not the first time I've told that story. So.
Well, we'll make sure to get a list of all those people and send this DVD copy to everyone if they don't see it online.
Good. So in the end. It kind of surprised me that I won that award, but at the same time, I felt like I was, I had done some work, my time at Yale that I was pretty proud of, and
yeah, you can compliment yourself. You've worked hard, right?
Yeah,
this isn't.
Absolutely.
This is a hard path for people to take. No.
Yeah. No, it's not easy. That's for sure. Yeah.
And I know that you had initially started this whole business hoping to become a film director, and not too long ago had your own short film called Crumple. Yes? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was just part of a film festival. I believe it was the 72-hour film festival where basically you had 72 hours to write, direct, and finish the film.
Oh my goodness.
Get it delivered in,
3 days for a short film.
Yeah.
That's craziness.
I think 6 minutes was the maximum.
What's the storyline? What
would happen is that at the beginning of, on Friday night, they would give you a word or a sentence. And I think ours was maybe hide and seek. That was our theme, or, so you had to create a film based on that. And basically, my short film was about a guy who was having a rough time being married, and he basically had been fired from his job, from his 9-to-5 job as a businessman on Wall Street, and he was pretending to go to work every day, even though he didn't have work to go to.
Oh no!
Because he didn't want to tell his wife, because his wife was a very strong woman, and he was
afraid of her.
He was afraid of the horns, so he would basically suit up and go through his morning routine and say goodbye to his wife in the morning, and then just walk around the streets of Brooklyn, contemplating life and trying to figure out what he should do.
And maybe death.
Yeah, and maybe death, and just he's at the end of his rope.
What am I gonna do?
So that was sort of my hide and seek. Short film, and it turned out really, really well. I got to collaborate with some friends who's a playwright, Sung No.
Okay.
He's a well-known playwright in New York, Korean American, and Paul Jun, who's one of my good buddies as an actor. He acted in the film, and we just used people that we knew, and I'd always wanted to shoot a film, and that was sort of my first stab at film directing, and you
won an award.
And we
Did
won.
You win first place?
We won the top prize.
That's incredible.
It was.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It was. I mean, it was exactly the way I envisioned the film. It was funny. It was sad, all at the same time in the span of 6 minutes.
Wow.
So it turned out exactly the way I envisioned it, and how we talked about it with my team, and I'm very proud of that piece. And
fantastic. What was it like to be on the other side of the camera?
Oh, it was great. I had such a good time.
Yeah.
I think I would really enjoy that work.
So, in the future, would you like to be able to do more of that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. I think the toughest part of directing is really coming up with good material. That's the way I feel, and until I can get to a point where I'm happy about the script that I'm directing, I probably won't direct anything. So, but sometimes you just have to suck it up and go ahead and do it. But so far I'm still kind of waiting for that right moment for it to happen. But maybe I should just make it happen. But I feel like I've been saying that for like the past 5-10 years now. Probably all the instances that I see my parents working so hard. They've been slaving away ever since they've immigrated to the States, and I haven't been to Alaska in a long time, but I used to go often, especially during my downtime, or if I didn't have a play to do, or some work come up, and go up there and help them run their business and whatnot, and just seeing them getting up every morning and going to work, and just seeing that and the struggle that they go through, I think really is kind of hard on me. I mean, I'm sure it's harder on them physically, but to me, it's just a lot of like 속상해, because I want them to have a comfortable life, and I'm not doing so bad right now, so I'm hoping that pretty soon I'll be able to help them retire and help them get into a comfortable retirement, and for once in their lives, instead of working to get me by, I can work to help them be relaxed and comfortable, and grow old in their years.
Well, since your life has been so rich, and we haven't really talked a lot about your family and your background, your childhood and whatnot. You weren't born in the States, right? You were born in Korea.
Yeah, born in Korea.
Cheongju.
In Cheongju, yeah.
And you were there until you were 4 years old, right? And your father was working in the States when you were just a couple months old, so he came to the States to immigrate. Yeah.
I think it was one of those situations where he had an opportunity to come to the States to get his green card and work, and I think he Cheongju was a very poor city back in the 70s, and my father was part of that wave, and he wanted to basically have a better life for his family, and have a chance at getting a piece of the American pie, and so he basically came back for us, my mom and I, when I was 4, and brought us back, and basically our lives in America began.
And with your father now, he went over to Alaska to work on the pipeline, is that right?
We first, I believe, we immigrated through Hawaii first for a very short time, because that's where my father's aunt lived. And then we ended up in Alaska somehow, because that's where he was originally working on the pipeline.
I see.
And that was, and then once I got into like second grade, he got a job offer or something to go to Vancouver, Washington. And so we moved down to Vancouver, and that's where I grew up most of my years. of my young adult life.
Now, as a child, did you ever feel like you wish your parents were not Korean because you were one of the only Koreans in that area?
Absolutely, all the time. I mean, I think that's why I had an interest in doing films, because it sort of made me analyze my life and why I'm living in this town, and why, you know, I feel like I'm, you know, so alone, and, you know, I felt like I didn't get the whole family aspect of growing up and knowing what family means. So so that kind of got my wheels, I think, churning in my head. And I was like, you know what, I should make a film about this, about my experience growing up in a small town as a Korean American. And because of this, I always felt like I was sort of on the outside looking at the life that's going on around me.
Yes.
And I felt like I felt like I had to share those experiences with other people. And, you know, especially with the whole sort of, you know, aspect of racism and whatnot.
Did you experience a lot of racism?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, I certainly did. You know, probably is just as much as any other Asian American guy growing up, you know, in the 80s. But being around, you know, my environment and growing up in a small city of white people, I felt like I wanted to say to them, look, you know, even though I'm Asian, I'm really just like you. You know, we do the same things and we like the same things, and that sort of kind of made me want to utilize film as a vehicle to say to people, you know, in the end, we're just all the same.
Yeah.
And that became sort of an inspiration to me. And I think that's one of the major reasons why I still act to this day, is because I feel like, you know what, when I'm acting, I feel like, you know, the world is limitless, and that, you know, I can be anyone without the restraints of my race and class and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think film is a great vehicle for inspiration. And certainly the films I saw, you know, growing up, I was watching a lot of like art house films. I'm not talking like Hollywood block.
Not just
no.
Hollywood
My interest was
Rambo.
like no. I was literally like foreign films, because there was a Landmark theater, I believe, like an art house theater, and I loved watching foreign films.
Wow. What do you think about Korean films? Because there's a huge wave of what they call Hallyu, right?
Yeah.
The Korean wave coming into the U.S., going throughout the world with Korean dramas, Korean movies, Korean culture, Korean food, Korean music.
No, it's.
What do you feel about that?
I think it's amazing. And it's amazing. I mean, to me, because, I mean, where were those Korean movies back in the 80s? They didn't. I mean, it wasn't until like the late 80s and 90s when it became more of a worldwide event. And I don't know, maybe those movies did exist in the 80s and they just didn't get to the United States.
What would be your most favorite Korean movie?
I have one in mind, and I saw it maybe I want to say 6 or 7 years ago on DVD, and it's called Oasis. And I think Korean pronunciation is Oasis by Lee Chang-dong.
Korean director Chang Dong-lee, who debuted in 1996 with the movie Green Fish, came into the spotlight with his 2002 film Oasis. Oasis took home a Blue Dragon Award and a Korean Film Award, as well as awards from the Venice Film Festival for director Lee and his two main actors. Oasis tells us that through love, all of us become precious, through its plot of a love story between a woman with a disability and an ex-con. At the beginning of the movie, we meet Jong-doo, who has just completed his sentence for manslaughter. He visits the family of his victim and, by coincidence, runs into Gongju, a woman disabled by cerebral palsy. He falls in love. These two unlikely lovers who had been abandoned by their families developed their love through late-night calls. They wish they can go on dates like other couples, but it's an impossibility that only comes to life in Gongju's imagination. Then one day, they discover an abandoned apartment, and it becomes their oasis. They are outcasts to their families, but to each other, they are the other's savior. Oasis is a heartwarming story of innocent love and the redemptive powers of acceptance in a cold world.
That movie I thought was gritty, and it was about a relationship that you never thought could happen. It was about self-redemption, and I mean, just the way it was shot, just masterful shots. And masterful acting. The actors in that movie were just amazing. But that's definitely one of my favorite Korean movies. And I mean, if I could ever work with that director, that would probably fly through the roof.
Mr. Lee. There's another Mr. Lee right here.
I know, right?
That might want to work with you.
Yeah, but I mean, he's amazing. I mean, it's he's an amazing piece of work.
I think that the Korean wave really is hitting the U.S., and I think maybe that will put more fire to and more momentum to non-Koreans also loving Korean culture, Korean movies, Korean everything, and that might have a synergetic effect with more Asian Americans getting the spotlight here stateside. So hopefully that'll all kind of help kindle that fire and make it bigger.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, you're right, and in the end it's really about getting the opportunity to work with good people, you know, and people who regard their work seriously, and that's really, in the end, that's what it's about. So hopefully more opportunities will rise for me and everyone else, you know, and all the other Asian American actors that are working right now.
Hi CS, it's Michael on the set of Dexter. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Congrats on being featured on the show, and I look forward to seeing you here and hearing your laugh soon.
Charles Soon, CS, you and I spend a lot of time together. It's always fun. I enjoy your company. You need to work on your golf swing, become more consistent, and I wish you the very best of luck with the birth of your child. That's the most important thing I can say to you. You're a good friend, and I love you very much. 감사합니다.
CS, it's been such a pleasure to interview you, and I understand that this is the first time that you've had an interview like this in your home.
This certainly is the first interview in my home, but also it's, I think, one of the first sort of more in-depth interviews that I've had. Generally, most of my interviews have been about just Dexter and you know, the show, but thank you for taking the time to let me blab on about my life and whatnot, and I know hopefully I can, I don't know, maybe, you know, be an inspiration to some kid out there.
Absolutely. I mean, seriously, CS, you've been such a joy to talk to, and I just see why so many people adore you and adore your playing Vince. And I'm sure that there'll be many more roles to come in the future. But you're just a really genuine guy who has these amazing skills, and you're making use of it. And I'm very happy that your being on the show, I know, will inspire a ton of kids, a lot of people out there to really pursue their dreams despite whatever adversity. And I'm just really thankful you decided to say yes.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that means a lot to me. And you know, wife, did you hear that? Okay, no, I mean, you know, thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun, and For a first in-depth interview, I think this is probably sets a really high precedent. So
awesome.
You guys have been great.
Great. Thank you so much, CS.
Thank you.
All the best to you in the future.
Yes, thanks a lot. Hey, it's C.S. Lee. It's your father. You're gonna probably get this message in several years, if not 5, maybe 10 years. But when you do, and you see this, I hope you look in the mirror and say, wow, I got my good looks from my dad. And the best piece of advice I can give to you is have a big heart, be fair, and give all you can in this world.